Can you guys hear me now? Hello? So I want to show you guys my keyboard and also ridiculous at the same time. So I had it working a while ago and then things get weird and that's what I'm trying to bring back up right now real quick. All right. So just please bear with me. I want to okay. All right, let me do one more now. Let me see. Add display capture. And we're going to so that won't shut off anymore. And cancel, remove. Window capture probably. All right, guys, so how is that? Is that better now? All right, so that's looking good now. So you guys can see. All right, so I actually have another camera set up overhead to show my hands, but I'm gonna have to figure that out at another time because, yeah, as you can see, it's just too much. I actually got the different streaming. I have a Blackmagic audio for streaming, Ultra Blackmagic device for audio, and I have a Cam Link. So I actually got them today in the mail, and I said, all right, let me test these out, but man, this took up more time than I initially wanted. So how you guys doing today? Happy Saturday. And happy Sunday for you guys who's going to be playing at church tomorrow. So thank you guys for hanging out. I see 77 people here in the chat. That's great. So, I wanted to talk with you guys a little tonight. Share some stuff and all of that. It is Sunday for you. Oh, wow. So you went to church already, Gabriel? See that it's Sunday for you? Yeah, respect y'all for hanging out with me tonight and bearing with me during my technical difficulties. So, what I want to talk about today are two things. Two things that I believe has contributed greatly to my success and my piano playing in general. And I wanted to talk about the stuff on the live stream because every message that you guys post on YouTube, I read it. And I respond to most of them, if not all of them. Every email I get sent to me, I respond to it. Every message that's left on the website, I respond to it, and I also read them. And I'm seeing a recurring thing. Not from everyone, but from some folks that I would like to address. So, in my opinion, give me a minute there. There we go. This is a lot better. Better than using my my phone. The iPad, I can see better and clearer. All right. So I'll just leave that there for now. Actually, okay, that's good. So what do I want to talk about today? The two things that has contributed hugely to my development, my growth as a musician, and just, all the doors that have opened up for me in life, I believe came from these two things. And that is, one, your mindset. And two, always have an open mind towards learning. Those are the two things that I've been doing subconsciously over the years without thinking about it. I didn't know that I was really practicing those things. I guess it's probably because I always felt like I was behind in everything. So I just felt like I needed to catch up. I grew up in the countries of Jamaica, and not a lot happening out there. Not a lot of stuff going in sports, okay stuff going in education. Definitely nothing happening in music. And so when I went to the city, which is Kingston, the capital of Jamaica, and I started music school, I was at the bottom of the barrel. Like one of the worst students, meaning I couldn't really play anything. I could probably play like 3 songs in the key of C, maybe. I was 18 years old at this time. And so I see all these cats coming in for audition. And they're running arpeggios up and down. And they're playing all the latest tune. And I'm like, Jesus. How am I going to ever compete with these guys? Why am I even here? And so because of that, I got into this frame of mind of gratitude. It's like, well, I'm here to audition. I'm just going to do my best. And this was the song I played for my audition. I didn't even play it that fancy. But that's what I played for my audition. Just try it and try it in this hand, melody in this hand. That's all I played. And at the end, the interviewer looked at me and he said, "You seem very passionate about this music thing. So we're going to accept you on a preliminary qualifying basis," which means I have 1 year. They were giving me 1 year to learn all the ear training, all the theory, to learn how to read music, because I didn't know anything about reading music. You put a music sheet in front of me and I couldn't tell you what a quarter note was, much as an eighth note. I didn't know anything about music. They give me 1 year to get up to a grade 4 level. For those of you who are familiar with the Royal School of Music grading system. So basically I had to know all my major scales and a few minor scales. I needed to play a few broken chords, few block chords, and I needed to be able to play 2 classical pieces from memory. I needed to pass all the grade 4 theory exam and the ear training exam. 1 year. They have classes, what they call the preliminary qualifying classes throughout that year. But I had 1 year to get in. And in that 1 year, I worked hard. I listened to everybody. I attended every class, even if it wasn't about piano. If it was a class on flute, I was there. If it was a class on percussion, I was there. I was just in a mindset of learning, because in my mind, I can't go back to St. Thomas. There was nothing back there for me. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. All I knew was what I wanted to do, music. And so I opened up my mind. I didn't shut anything out. Every kind of music I was listening to. I was doing everything my teacher said. They say, go listen to some Tchaikovsky symphony. I go listen to that. They say, hey, go listen to some Miles Davis jazz. I go listen to that. Everything anybody said to me, I did it. And I maintained that attitude right through music school. And after my 4 years of graduation, they said they wanted me to be the valedictorian for the college. Now that blew my mind, because in my mind, all I've been trying to do for these past 4 years is catch up to the rest of the kids. But the teachers, they said, I grew the most in terms of from where I came in and where I graduated. I was the most, I showed the most growth. Anyways, I was a valedictorian, and that was cool and great. But I didn't stop there. After college, I was still trying to learn more. And that's how I got a full scholarship to fly from Jamaica to Portland, Maine, United States, where I did another 3-year degree in music. And when I came here, the standard was a lot higher. There were kids at 15 already could play 10 Beethoven sonatas. It was wild. What did I do? I opened up my mind and I sat at the feet of everybody to learn everything they had to offer, every class, learn and practice. That's all I did. I went to school, I worked part-time, and I was doing landscaping. So I was mowing grass, shoveling snow in the winter, people's driveway. That's how I got through college here at USM in the United States for 3 years. I did landscaping. Hard work. Summertime, it's out there, it's hot. I'm planting trees, I'm digging ground, and at nights, I'm practicing. Why am I saying all of this? It's because a lot of the message I get from some of you guys is that you want to skirt the work. You say, I can only play in the key of F sharp. And I say, all right, you need to just put passing chords on the back burner. Learn to play in the other keys. Like the way you can play in F sharp, just try to get to that level in the rest of the keys. Forget about everything else. Once you can play in all 12 keys, you don't have to be able to play comfortably. Once you can just play, like if someone starts to sing, I don't know, Amazing Grace in B, just to be able to play even the triad chords to that. That's what I'm recommending. And I get folks saying, but I'm going to sound boring, and I don't want to have to spend all that time to learn the key of B or the key of F sharp. I just want to learn passing chords in F sharp, and then I'll just use a transpose button. So I wanted to say all of this, that you guys might see me on YouTube and you're like, man, that guy's crushing and he knows all this stuff. But I've invested blood, sweat, and tears for the last 15 years in this thing. And it wasn't easy because I had to work and I had to go to school and I had to learn. And there were many days I felt like quitting. But when I think about what would my plan B be, I didn't have a plan B. It was either music or nothing. I didn't say, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll go be a banker. Or if it doesn't work out, I'll go be a lawyer. Or if it doesn't work out, I don't know, I'll just go teach in the school system. Music was it. It had to work for me. Because it had to work, I was willing to do whatever it takes. I was willing to learn from anybody. I was willing to stay up till midnight practicing my scales. And so I just want you guys to understand. Right now, we're living in a world where everything is instantaneous. You can pick up your phone and say, hey, Siri. And Siri, you tell Siri whatever you want, and Siri will give you back an answer in 5 seconds. You tell Google whatever you want, it gives you back an answer. When I was learning, when I was just starting to learn keyboard, there was no YouTube. So everything I learned, I had to either watch from someone's shoulder, try to read it in a book, listen to a recording for 5 hours, trying to figure out what that bass note is so I can find the rest of the chord. It was a steep uphill battle. Now we got YouTube, and we got hundreds of piano teachers and people showing you lines and licks. People on YouTube telling you exactly what to do. And some of you guys don't want to do it. You're still trying to avoid the work. Back then, everything someone say, hey, learn all 12 scales. Great. I would go and I would practice. What next should I learn? I was so hungry. And I think that's what's missing from a lot of pianists today is the hunger. The hunger. Because I'm trying to lay out a plan for you guys to work on. And I'm guaranteeing you, if you follow that path, if you just do what Warren said go learn all my arpeggios, just go learn it. Then you come back, what's next? If you do all those things that I'm telling you to do, you're going to be ahead of the game. Ahead. I don't even know how to explain this. I'm so passionate about this because this is something I've been thinking about for the last few days based on the messages I'm getting. The impatience that I'm seeing online, it's troubling. So, I'm not here to scold you guys, but I really want you to take a step back and say, am I trying to shut things out? Am I trying to just think, well, this is what I need. I need passing chords in this key, and that's going to solve my problem. No, it won't. There's a reason there are 12 keys on the piano. You have to get over this key-centered mindset. You have to. Like, when I was learning, that wasn't a thing. Like, people just try to learn all your keys right away. So right now, there's this key-centered mindset, and I think it's believed the transpose button is the killer. It's why, I started learning on a cheap keyboard, there was no transpose button. So I just started figuring out how to play all the other keys, because I couldn't transpose. I didn't have that option. Some churches I go to, it was a piano, no keyboard. So I just got in the mindset from very early, even when I just could play only triads, to just try to fumble my way through the keys. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. But right now, most keyboards have a transpose button, and you guys are getting locked in to the transpose thing. And so this key-centered thing where you just refuse to learn the other keys. And so I get so many messages, hey man, can you redo that tutorial but in the key of G? And I'm thinking to myself, how do I respond to a question like that? You know, a tutorial takes me about 4 hours. About 5 hours to prepare. Each YouTube tutorial takes about 5 hours. because I sit before the tutorial and I map out what is it I want to teach in this lesson. That ranges in time. Could be half hour, could be an hour. It takes me to sort of figure out what I want to teach. Then I set up all my lights and cameras and everything. Then I shoot the tutorial. Then I go and I edit the tutorial. And I put in my thumbnails and everything. Then I upload the tutorial to YouTube for free. And then you got cats saying, yo, can you redo all that, but in the key of G? It's a little bit offensive, to be honest. And it tells me that you're not really willing to do the work. Every tutorial I do, as it relates to a song, I always do it, or mostly do it, in the original key. And that's because I want to challenge you guys to listen to the recording and then try to learn it the way I explained it in its original key. And if you start trying to learn songs in the original key like that, then eventually this fear of playing in the other keys will go away, because you'll start to learn to move your way through the other keys. So, a few tips I have for you guys. Question number one. Statement number one. Stop asking for specific keys. Because the reality is, I am not going to reshoot a tutorial in the key of C, or in the key of D, or B, or whatever key. Because I get so many of those comments. Can you imagine if I tried to appease everyone? I wouldn't have a life. So that's the first statement. If you're really serious about taking your playing to the next level, stop asking for tutorials in specific key, especially on a free platform like YouTube. Don't do it. Because in reality, nobody's going to reshoot a tutorial in all the different keys to appease everybody. And that's why on my website for my paid content, courses like Fat Chords, Soul Chords, Lexology, Gospel Passing Chords, I'm doing those based on keys. So I do the key of C. The next release is going to be in the key of F. I'm going to go through all 12 keys. That's because those courses are going deep in concept. And for folks who are willing or who are able to pay for it, you can get courses in specific key. But when it comes to YouTube, you can't come and ask for a tutorial to be redone in a key for you. It just doesn't make sense, So that's one thing I'd like you guys to do. Stop being afraid of the key. Have an open mindset towards learning. Stop being afraid to put in the work. The sooner you start to put in the work, the easier it's going to get. You can't avoid the work. I'm telling you this because I walked the path. And I've watched hundreds of other pianists walk the path. We all had to walk the same path. There's literally no shortcuts. So when I give you guys the practice template, and it says Monday, C major scale, don't skip it. When it says Tuesday, F major scale, don't skip it. Just do what the template says. Everything I outline in my course. If you just do that, you guys are going to grow faster than I did, because I didn't really have all of that. I did my degree in classical piano performance, meaning every day I was sitting practicing a Bach or a Beethoven or all the gospel stuff I learned on my own. That wasn't taught in college. Nobody taught me about tritone substitution. The theory that I learned in classical music, because I studied pretty high level of theory, the theory I use now, I would take that theory and go to gospel songs and say, am I hearing any of this theory in gospel? And of course you're going to find it. Then once I see something that I don't know what it is, I would try to find ways to explain it. And I go, oh, so basically they're taking that concept and they're switching it around this way. I taught myself all this gospel stuff. It was not taught to me in college. All the jazz stuff, I taught myself. My degree is in classical, not gospel nor jazz. I taught myself that. And so I just want you guys to know that The information is here. And that's why I only focus on gospel music on my channel, because it's what I'm interested in. It's something I've always been interested in. And now I've gotten to a point where I can sound like a gospel pianist, and I want to teach other people to do the same thing. So the information is very condensed, and it's here for you guys. But you can't avoid the fundamental stuff, the scales, the arpeggios, the broken chords, you know, the songs and all of that stuff. Great. I see I have 110 people now watching. Hey, man, I'm glad for you guys showing up here. I know I'm on a little bit of rant right now, but it's just really important. I want you guys to understand this, because I don't think some of you understand the depth of what it takes to become an advanced player. All of you watching right now can be an advanced player, but it's going to require some grit, some discipline, some consistency, and some mindset shift. You got to change your mindset. You know, I'm a generally an optimistic person. I try to see the good in everything, the good in everybody, and I try to see, in every situation, I try to see what I can learn. So I know sometimes on the channel, I might do a tutorial that's a little bit advanced for some of the viewers. Instead of saying, this is too advanced, and skip the video, try to rephrase that statement and say, this is advanced, but what can I learn from it? Because I guarantee you, doesn't matter what skill level you're on, if you watch any one of my YouTube tutorials, at the end, there's at least one thing you're going to say, I didn't know that, now I know. And if you just approach your daily life, your daily music life with that open mindset of learning and saying, what can I learn from this? What can I grasp on this? Because you see, the brain, we're taking in a lot of information, and not everything you're going to remember, but the brain is processing it in the subconscious. And one day you're going to have, light bulb moments. You're going to go, oh, that's what that meant. Things starts to happen. The neural connections in the brain starts to create pathways. So there's an old saying that information gained or knowledge gained is never lost. So you might watch a video and you go, I think I kind of get it, but I don't really understand. That's okay. Just give yourself time. In 6 months, you might come back to that video and you go, oh, that's what he meant by that. And so I want you guys going forward to start having an open mindset. Mindset of gratitude. Be grateful that this thing called YouTube exists, where people are just giving away free content week after week. So instead of complaining about, hey, why can't you do in the key of A? Or, hey, the tutorial is too fast. YouTube has a feature just below the setting that allows you to slow down the video. So if I did a run, you go back and you slow it down and you watch it half speed and you go, oh, those are the notes he played. So stop complaining about the videos too fast. Sometimes I admit I may play some things too fast because I'm in the moment. A lot of the times the things I'm playing on camera, it's in the moment. It comes to me and I just do it. I like to shoot my tutorials like that with a lot of spontaneity. I don't want everything to be sort of curated and mapped out. It's not fun to me. And I'm probably sure that sort of video is not fun for you guys also. And so instead of saying it's too fast, just slow down the video. Another cat commented in a video the other day, said, hey man, it's way too much talking. And I giggled to myself because I said, you could easily skip over the talking. Like, this is ridiculous. And so people now are in this mindset of just like, everything should be tailored to me. And if it's not tailored to me, I'm going to be upset and I'm going to leave mean comments. Now, I'm not saying I'm hurt by the comments. I just find them hilarious. And because I care about you guys, the ones who really want to learn this thing, I'm just trying to encourage y'all to change your mindset. One, to be a little bit more grateful for what's available. And two, have an open mindset of learning. So instead of complaining, trying to say, what can I learn from this? And then as soon as you finish watching the video, go try to apply it right away. Because if you wait until 2 weeks, then you try to do it, you won't remember it. Go try to apply it. Even if it doesn't really make sense to you, just try. Try and try and try and try. And one day you're going to wake up and you're going to realize that, wow, I'm a very different player than I was a year ago, 6 months ago. But it takes discipline, it takes hard work, it takes consistency, and it takes a mindset shift. All right? So that's enough of my rant for one day. I'm not going to rant anymore. Let me just look at some of these questions. So I have Meticulous up right here. You guys can see that. So what we're going to do now, tomorrow, for those of you guys who are probably on the Eastern time set, or probably even Western time in the United States, tomorrow's church day. So right now I'm just going to take some questions on anything you guys want to ask me. And, we'll just have fun and shoot and talk about that stuff. Oh, man. So a lot of comments. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get through all of these. Jesus, where do I even start? So I'm just going to scroll through and pick random comments. Ooh. All right. So y'all having your own conversation in the chat. Are y'all even listening to me what I was saying earlier? Okay, where are we? Jesus, the chats are blowing up. All right, I'm just going to scroll to the bottom. I think that's going to make more sense. What time is it now? 8:46. Chris is saying, do you have any courses for beginners? Yes, Chris, I do have courses for beginners, both in the YouTube channel. So when you guys go to the YouTube channel, go to my YouTube channel, just click on playlist, and you're going to see all the videos, and you just scroll down. You want to just go back to tutorial number 1 and start to watch them in that order. You'll see a lot more beginner stuff. I'm just going through some of the comments. All right, let me see. Kingsley, what's going on, brother? For me, the function of transpose button is to help the choir play their score songs when they go off key. Apart from this, everyone should play in all keys. I can understand that. And you see, the thing is, I'm not saying, like, for example, if you're the only keyboard player for your church, you're somewhere in the beginner intermediate level, and you only can play in a handful of keys. And so you use a transpose button to make sure the service doesn't go to the dumpster when someone's singing in a key that you don't know. I'm not saying come tomorrow, you don't use a transpose button and you mess up the service by trying to fumble in other keys. I'm not saying that. You do what you can while you can. So if tomorrow you're playing and the singer decides to, boom, transpose in a key that you don't know, use that transpose button. Your goal is to enhance the service, not detract from it. But in your practicing at home, there's an old saying we have in Jamaica: learn to dance a yard before you go abroad. And that translated into English means learn to do things from home before you try to do it in public. So, if you want to start to learn to play in other keys, you have to start to practice in the other keys from home. Take the popular songs that you know is going to be done in church on a regular and start to learn those in the other keys from home. Eventually, you're going to be able to start playing all those other keys in public. But if you don't practice it from home, then you'll never be able to get to the stage and the comfort where you can start doing it in public comfortably. You got to start from home. So it means you need to have practice sessions at home. So, question here from Wilson. I recently signed up for your membership on your website. I play at my church, but currently I just play blocked chords with inversions and some transition chords. Which course would be best for me? Wilson, you should check out my course, Rhythm Chords, for beginners and intermediates. In there, I go through a bunch of rhythms and show you how you can take basic progressions and add those. And I'm going to be coming out with more videos on this series because I get this question a lot. And rhythm is a tough thing, especially if you don't play with a drummer. You know, then you become sort of like the rhythmic element. And if that's not something you're comfortable with, it can be hard. So be on the lookout for that. But for now, for you guys who are beginners and intermediate, go to Piano Lesson with Warren and check out Rhythm Chords. Let's see what else. Keith says, can you do a video on licks and runs in D flat? That will come, Keith. So this is how I like to tailor all of my releases based on the cycles of fourth. So I always start in C. What's the next key in the cycle of fourth? F. So that's my next key I'm going to do licks and runs in. Then I go to B flat, then E flat, then A flat, then D flat. So you're going to have a little bit of weight on that one. And the reason why I like to do things in the cycle of fourth, because I want to reaffirm that in the minds of folks, that the cycles of fourth, that's something you need to know backwards and forward, inside and out. Because all the passing chords and stuff is going to start from an understanding of how chords move in the cycles of fourth. 2, 5, 1, and so on. Question. Solomon. Is it necessary to read music to develop good technique? Absolutely not. Read music is just another form of learning music. It has nothing to do with technique. If you want to learn to read music, that's great. I'm not going to say don't learn. It is not necessary though for you to develop good technique. Yeah? And if you have my course on building technique, I go through the crucial things that are necessary for technique building. Things like scales, arpeggios, broken chords. You know, it's just a matter of strengthening your fingers. And a side note, someone emailed me yesterday and say, what would be the best keyboard to get? I always recommend, if you're going to buy a keyboard, invest in a keyboard that has weighted keys. That's how you develop strength and dexterity. Keys that are not weighted, you don't develop any strength and dexterity. And it's significantly hard to run clean scales when you're playing on a keyboard that is not weighted. So right now the keyboard I'm playing with is the Yamaha DGX 650. That's this keyboard. And it's a keyboard I use on all my tutorials. The keyboard I use at church is a Nord Electro 3. It's not weighted, but it's the church's keyboard. But if you're buying a keyboard for your home that is not a piano, invest in something either weighted or semi-weighted. Just don't even buy a light key keyboard because it's not good for technique development. Yeah? Where am I? Actually, let me do it this way. There we go. This is better. Let me scroll back up. Reach, brother. Thank you, man. You start playing in all keys by mastering your major scale first. And that was a comment made by Medina, and I wholeheartedly agree. And that's why I always stress folks that, you know, if you learn all your 12 major scales, then you're like 25%, if not 40% of the way in learning how to play in that particular key. Just learn all your major scale comfortably. I should be able to say A major scale, right hand, go. And you do that. A major scale, left hand, go. That's how you want to get to the level so you know your scale. So I get questions from folks saying, how do I know when I should move on from my major scales? Well, it's not a matter of moving on. It's something that you constantly come back to the point where you can just think of any major scale and just play it without thinking. When I am playing the keyboard, the only thing I think about is how pretty I want it to sound. That's it. I don't think about what key I'm in, how should I play this A flat 13 chord, what's the best voicing, because those things are so second nature to me now, because I've spent 15 years hammering them into my brain. If you're sitting at the keyboard and you're playing and you're having to think about too much about what notes belong to the next chord that's coming up, that means you're still learning this stuff. And so you want to continue reaffirm it. And a good way to learn all these things is just constantly learn songs. Like I got a message from a gentleman the other day saying, I know a lot of theory. Theoretically, I know all my chords, I know all my scale. But when I sit to play, blank. And that's because there's two ways of learning music. You can learn music theoretically, and you learn music practically. You have a lot of guys who can crush it as a pianist. They can play well, but they don't really know the theory side of stuff. They're playing by ear, and they're making decisions by ear, which is great. That's okay. But if you're one of those cats that only know the theory, it means you're not spending enough time in the practical aspect. So you need to be learning real songs. Because if you sit there and just practice scales, arpeggios, broken chords, and progressions, and I say, how many songs do you know from memory? And there's crickets. That means you got to start learning songs. My opinion is that 60 to 70% of your practice session should be spent on songs. 30% spent on technique. So like the scales, the arpeggio and stuff. Because at the end of the day, we want to be able to sit at the piano and play songs. That's it. So you need to make that a priority. My recommendation is that every week you should be learning 2 or 3 songs based on your skill level. As you get more advanced, you're going to realize that you can learn a lot more songs per week. Like I can learn 10, 20 songs easy in a day to go play a concert that evening. So like right now, it's 8:56 p.m. In my location. If the Reverend texts me and say, Warren, we're changing all the songs for tomorrow's service. Here's the new list. Even if there's songs I've never heard before, I'm not worried about it. That's how fast I can learn songs now. Now, it wasn't always like that. 10 years ago, if the Reverend texted me and said, here is new songs for tomorrow's service, we're changing all the songs, I would freak out. Because I wouldn't be able to learn the songs that quickly. And so, you know, you want to make learning songs a priority. You know, that's the key to all of this. Keep learning songs. Just learn. And that's when you're going to start to see the pattern. That's when you start listening to a recording and you can go, oh, that's the 6. Oh, that's the flat 5. Oh, he just uses 13 sharp 9s right there. You start to hear all these things because you've heard them so many times. All right, let's see what we got here for questions. Corey Henry solo. Is there a specific drill you recommend to practice the circle of fourths? Yeah, just sit at the keyboard and try to pick them out. Sit at the keyboard and try to pick them out. And there are a bunch of diagrams you can find online. If you type in to Google the circle of fourths and fifths, you'll see a bunch of diagrams that's really helpful. You know, but as it relates to seeing them on the keyboard, you can sit and just pick them out. And then you can eventually also start to recite them from memory. C, F, B flat, E flat, you know, and so on. Question from Blue, Mrs. says, do you think it's possible for me to learn to be a great pianist via your teaching without going to college? Absolutely. It's all the information that I have learned over 8 years of college, plus information I've learned on my own since I graduated college. It's that stuff I'm packaging and selling on my website. It's that stuff I use in my YouTube videos. I am giving you guys college level concept. You go to Berklee School of Music and you sit in Jazz Class 101, it's the same things I'm teaching you you're going to learn. That's it. I'm teaching you guys real life theory, not woo-woo stuff that nobody uses. Every song you listen to, all that cool stuff you hear, those are the things I take, I dissect, and I teach you. That's it. So if you hang out with me over the long haul for years and months, you're going to learn enough theory and practical stuff as any college level graduate. I guarantee you that. Gospel walking bass, please, Gabriel. Sure, my man. I'll get to it. I'll get to it. It's a lot of stuff. I know. So we got a message here from Larger Ben. He says, I just have 10 minutes to practice per day. What do you recommend I practice most? So I want to challenge that. You really only have 10 minutes a day. Really, in 24 hours, you can only find 10 minutes. I don't know your situation. I don't know your life. But that seems very meager. What you got going on? What you got going on that you only can find 10 minutes? Every day. Out of 7 days a week. I mean, I can think there's some days you might only have 10 minutes, but every day, only 10 minutes? I need you to respond to that, you know. Because if you only have 10 minutes a day, I would say, all right, be meticulous about it. Use one day, technique. Second day, repertoire. Next day, back to technique. The other day, repertoire. Just alternate them. It will move the needle little by little still. But I still find it difficult that you only have 10 minutes a day. I think there's something you ain't telling me. Substitute the TV time, and that will give you some more minutes. Yeah? Yeah, all right, let me see what we got going on here. Keep the keyboard right beside your computer. Is that for me or is that for the folks viewing? Thank you for what you're bringing. I'm enjoying it. Thank you, Chris White. Can you do a video on bass lines? Definitely will. You know, even though I do have a course called the Walking Bass, but I'm thinking I'm going to redo that entire course. But there's a course out there called the Walking Bass Practice Regimen. What is your thought process when playing while a speaker is speaking? Well, my thought process is two things. What they call talking music, when people say talking music, it's that background music that the pianist plays while someone is speaking. You know, the pastor's talking about an announcement or something, you create background music. Two things you want to adhere to. The first one is volume. You don't want to be too loud where you're playing above the speaker. You should be significantly lower in volume so that people aren't even trying too hard to hear the speaker. You shouldn't have to be trying too hard. So that's the first thing. Your volume should be all the way down. Your second thing is whatever you're playing should match the mood or the setting. So if we're playing in church and they're talking about things they're planning for the calendar year, for the services and all of that stuff, you can play something more serene, you know. And I'm just doodling right now. Like, I'm not playing any particular song. I'm just sort of just listening and playing things that sound cool. And that's literally what talk music is. It doesn't have to follow any structure, because you're not playing a song, you're not playing for a singer. It doesn't have to follow any particular beat or rhythm. It's just talk music. I mean, obviously, if you have a band, then you guys can sort of figure out what you want to groove on and stuff. But, you know, a lot of the times it's just me. That's kind of the stuff I play for talk music. The mood and the volume, that's the most important thing. And the more you practice that sort of improvisatory style of playing, the easier it will get. Yeah. And you'll be able to do more cooler ideas and stuff. But that's how I run it. Arpeggiate your content. Keep up the good work. All right. Thank you, AI. Foo, what's going on, Foo? I haven't seen you in months. It's good to see you still hanging out. How's everything in Cali? Foo. All right, so Foo says, can you talk about practice to go up and down fast on the piano? So there are two ways to go up and down on the piano. You can do it scalic, or you can do it as an arpeggio. So just make sure this is out of the way. You can do stuff like, so this is more arpeggio. So sometimes I might be playing. Then you have scale. So let's talk about the two. Well, first, you need to be able to play all those things slowly before you can play them fast. So that's why I talk about practicing arpeggios. If I'm doing like a C major arpeggio, actually let's use an E flat arpeggio. It's easier. So if I'm playing an E flat chord, I might just take this first inversion portion. My foot's on the pedal. That's it. Now the other important thing when you're playing things up and down the keyboard, especially when you're on an 88 key, your torso, there's a rule, and this is something I learned from classical music. Your elbow should always be pointing behind you. Number two, your forearm should always be parallel to the ground, meaning like this. Your hands shouldn't be like that or like that to the ground. It must be parallel. So that's why it's important that your keyboard's at the correct height, your bench is at the correct height. So to maintain my elbow pointing behind me and down, my torso moves. And I still maintain that position with my hand. And that's what they call alignment. Because all the stuff about piano playing, there's a lot of ergonomics that goes into it. How does the body moves? And so if you just keep your torso stationary, look what happens. My hand stretches out. And you never want that to happen. Unless you're doing something like, then, you know. But most of the times we're using one hand or we're bringing both hands. And that's why we move our torso with us. When I'm playing arpeggios or broken chords, my torso moves with me. And these are things I've been practicing for years, but I started slow. I make sure my form, just like when an athlete, they're training and they talk about form. You're in the gym, you're lifting weights, they talk about your form. Your piano also, there's a form. And that's to make sure that your hands remain parallel to the ground. You have a nice straight torso. And wherever your hand goes, your torso follows. You never want to have that. Or you never want to seat it where your hand's like this on the keyboard. or too high where your hands are down here. Parallel. And that's part of the technique building. I also cover that in my course, Building Technique. As it relates to scales now, the same thing. My torso moves. Wherever my torso goes. I must say, when you're practicing scales, that's why I always recommend use a weighted keyboard as much as you can, because that's how you develop these finger strength. Secondly, when you're practicing scales, make sure you're really pressing into the keys. You're not just playing surface, but you're really pressing into the keys. And you start slow, because you're building precision and you're building finger strength. When we talk about the curvature of the hand, so all of this stuff I'm going back to is basic, what we call classical technique. Doesn't matter what style of music you're playing, all of this stuff still transfers. It's not just, oh, the classical guys sit this way and play that way. It's all pianists sit and play that way. Look at all the pianists that you admire and look at them when they sit. Look at them when they play. Look at their bodies. That's part of where the fluidity comes from. Because once your body is working the way it was built and designed to work, then you're going to be fluid. Things get you feel discomfort and things feels difficult when you're trying to do things with your hands or your body that the body was not designed to do naturally. And so when you're playing, you're pressing into the keys and you're playing on this part of the finger. You make sure, you're not playing flat like this flat thing. No, curved. So imagine, do this with your fists. Grab your fist, and then when you remove your fist, the shape that's remaining, that's how your hands should be when you play. And when you're practicing your scales, nice, slowly, legato, and consistent. Not no. So if you realize you're practicing your scales that choppy, go back to a tempo where you can maintain precision. And that's why we say practice to a metronome or to a drum beat. Something that's going to force precision. And you start slow, and over weeks and months you get faster. And eventually you'll be able to. I remember the first time I saw my professor did something like that, I was blown away. But eventually I got there too. All I did was follow their advice. And you can get there too. So, that's my tip for you. Alright, more questions. I'm going to hang out with you guys till, say, 9:30, so another 15 minutes. Where am I? So Wilson, in regards to the brother that wrote that he only this is funny. The brother earlier that says he only has 10 minutes a day to practice. So Wilson response was like, 10 minutes? How about sleeping? How about sleeping for 20 minutes less? I don't know. I just thought that was hilarious. Oh boy, you guys cracking me up tonight. Let's do some more of these. Hey Warren, you're my teacher from Kenya. Bless you, my brother. Would love to hear your version of the Jamaican national anthem. To be honest, I need to go relearn that. That was something I knew very well before I left Jamaica because, we had to play it at many different functions. But I've never reharmonized that song, so I may do it for Jamaica Independence Day in August this year. shoot me a message as a reminder. I'll probably try to reharmonize it, but yeah, I need to go brush up on that one. Mm. Simon, you said, "Hello, Warren. Consider my question." Can you rewrite that? There's so many questions and comments in here. So I'm scrolling through to see which ones are questions versus just a comment. So another question says, "What videos did you watch when you were learning?" Well, it depends on what you mean by videos. Like I mentioned earlier, when I was learning piano, there was no YouTube around. So YouTube kind of came later. And by the time YouTube was a thing, there wasn't really piano lessons on YouTube, you know. So I think all of that sort of people doing piano tutorials and all that sort of came around in like 2008, 2009. At that point, I was graduating from college. I didn't need to watch YouTube tutorials at that point. I was a pretty solid player by then. So I never really watched any videos. I listened a lot. Listen, recordings, and try to play back what you hear. Try to figure out the chords. Try to figure out the little lick that you hear. Try to figure out melody line. That's how I learned. From recording, just listening. There's no videos to watch. How does one cement two-hand separation? Everton. And what he means is like, how do you develop hand independence? And that goes back to technique building. If you learn to play your major scale with one hand and with both hands, then you learn to play your major scale in contrary motion. Then you learn arpeggios with one hand and both hands. Then you learn arpeggios in contrary motion. All of those technique building developments is how you start to learn hand independence. It goes back to technique. You know, if you're struggling with an issue with your playing, it's most likely a technical issue. And if it's a technical issue, most likely can be solved by playing scales, arpeggios, broken chords, or blocked chords. I guarantee you. And octaves. So you can practice your scale in octaves. And this is why I am very thankful that I studied classical music first. This is not something I knew when I was starting out. At the school that I was going to, you either was in the pop jazz program or the classical. I didn't know anything about pop or jazz, and I wanted to learn how to read, so I said, I'm going to go to classical. And that's one of the things I'm happy I did. It really helped me to form my technique. Because as a classical pianist, every day they stress, gotta play your scales, gotta play your arpeggios. And in my early days, I took some of the Royal School of Music exam. The examiner would fly to Jamaica, and they would examine the kids there. And I was one of them taking the lessons. And so they would give you a booklet at the beginning of the year. And at the end of the year, they'll come and you do the exam. And the booklet tells you everything you need to have ready by then. How many scales you need to learn, what tempo you need to have them. And so that sort of got me into the drill of learning scales and learning arpeggios and octaves. And so, you know, or that's playing scales in thirds. So I learned a whole bunch of technique stuff. There was a book I have. Let me see if I can grab it right here. So for those of you guys who like books, when I was in college in Jamaica, this was the book I worked from. If you can find this on Amazon, it's a great book for building technique. That's if you read music. Unfortunately, because it's all notations. But this is a book I learned from. See, I bought this book. It doesn't even have a date. But I bought it probably like in 2005. So it's the manual of scales, broken chords, and arpeggios. And I think it's a great book. If you already read music, then you can learn the correct fingerings for all major scale, minor scale. Hey, look at that. It's the grade 3 book that I learned from. So it's these books that they would give us at the beginning of the year. Oh, this is the violin one. But it's these books they would give us at the beginning of the year. And right here, see the exam checklist. So for example, they're saying for scales, you need to know your E major, your G major, A major, B flat major, and D flat major, 2 octaves. You know, for minor scales, they listed that. And for chromatic scale, you know, they list your technique. And then this is what they would grade you by. Amazing. And so that's one of the reasons I'm looking back now, I'm just like, man, I'm glad I did the classical thing because it really helped me to get the technique thing out of the way. I was literally forced to do it because I would fail the exam if I couldn't play the scale. And so because of that, years later now I'm looking back, I'm like, wow, I can play all these stuff because I spent years learning how to play my scale. This book right here is a great book for you guys interested in the jazz stuff, like which scale to play over which chord. This book is called The Source, and you know it covers all the modes. Like for example, if you look on like this page, it's covering the Dorian mode, and it's telling you that the Dorian mode can be played over a minor 6 chord, you know, minor 7, minor 6 9 chord, you know, minor 11 chord. So if I'm playing, like say, a C minor 6 chord, I can play C Dorian over that. So this book is great for you guys who want to dive deeper into stuff like that. And it covers all the modes. It covers a lot of the jazz scale, like right here. It's talking about the super Locrian scale and stuff like that. So, you know, guys, there's a lot of resources out there. You know, but everything goes back to the fundamentals. Your scales, your arpeggios, your broken chords, and so on. And those are all the things I practiced. And that's what shaped my technique. And so that's why I'm recommending to you guys that, you know, just do the same things I did, and I guarantee you'll get to the same place I got. Yeah? All right. Let's see, take some more questions. We got another 8 minutes. I'll try to keep the answers shorter. And I'll try to do more of these live streams a month, because I like it. It's fun, you know? So, Shay Brown, got a question from Shay Brown. Says, do you think the senior citizen old schooler can learn from your system? Absolutely. And in the beginning of this live stream, we talked about having an open mind towards learning. One of my mantra is, as long as there's life, there is hope. And that's something I truly believe. If you're in good health and your brain is still functioning great, then you can learn. Last year, I was teaching an 82-year-old woman, locally here in Portland, Maine. I was teaching her daughter, who is in her 60s, and her mom was always hanging around and listening. And because her mom used to play piano for the church back in the day, like, God knows, 60 years ago or so. But she was always hanging around trying to learn. So I said, you want to learn? Take some lessons too? And she said, yeah, you know, I can do a 20 minutes here and there. And I said, sure. So I was teaching her how to play by ear at 82 years old. And eventually, you know, as she got older, she says, all right, I'm going to just go back to listening now. But I got her to the point to be able to play some of her favorite hymns by ear, just using triads. And so as long as there's life, there's hope. Don't ever think you're too young or too old to start something new, to start a new skill. I have guys saying, I'm 45 years old. Is it too late? No! See, the lifespan of humans now, we're living longer. If you take care of yourself, eat healthy, and take care of yourself, it's easy to live to 100 nowadays. And so if you're 45 and you're in good health, there's a strong chance that you have another 50 years of life or more. Just think of what you can learn in 50 years. If you're 75 years old and you're in good health, we don't know. Strong chance you can have another 30 years of life or more. There's always something to be learned. So I say, Shay, absolutely you can learn from my channel. I sometimes get questions from folks saying, how long is it going to take me to be able to play in all 12 keys? Or how long is it going to take me to get as good as you? None of those questions I can answer because one, I don't know you personally. Two, I don't know your lifestyle. And three, I don't know how much time you invest in this. I can tell you though, the more time you invest, the faster you get to your destination. Think about if you're driving a car on the highway and you're going 45. How long is it going to take you to get home? If you're driving said car and you're going 75 on the highway, you're going to get home a lot faster than the guy who's going 45. And so when you ask me how long it's going to take you, that all depends on you. Only you can decide how long it's going to take you. If you work like a mule day and night at this thing, it's going to take you a shorter time. But it all depends on your invested time. So Paul asks a question. He says, why do you always say, keep singing? Because I don't see the link between that and the piano. Brother, that's a good question. I'm trying to think how the best way to explain this. Singing is the connection. All right, right now, first of all, let me back up. Right now I'm teaching a 14-year-old girl. Now she's about 15 now. She has perfect pitch. And she sings like an angel, meaning the girl can sing. She knows some chords, but when I say improvise, she's crippled. She don't know what notes to play. And I'm like, can you hear the melody up here? And she says, yes, but I'm overthinking it. So you know what I told her to do? I said, play the chords in your left hand and sing the melody that you hear in your head. Just forget about the right hand now. Just play the chords and sing the melody. And I had her do that for a week. I said, go home and do that. Next time she came back, I said, now play the chords and sing the melody. And sing all the improvised lines that you're hearing. And then I say, now you got perfect pitch. So use that to your advantage. Play the melodies that you're singing. Continue to sing them, but now play them with your right hand. And guess what she did? She played those melodies. And I said, that's why we sing. When you sing, it's easier for you to formulate things with your hands. For a lot of us, we learn how to sing first before we even learn anything about a musical instrument. It's easy for us to use our voice and match a pitch that we hear than to hear a pitch and try to find it on the keyboard. It's harder to do it that way. But if you start to first hear a note, then reproduce it here, it becomes significantly easier for you then to find it here. And I always say keep singing because that's how I did it. I was singing before I learned keyboard. So once I started learning keyboard, I just used the techniques and the developed ear that I had through singing to figure out notes on the keyboard. So when I tell people to sing, it's so that you can create that link between the piano and the voice. If you can hear it and you can sing it, then you can play it. Hopefully that explains why I tell folks, sing, sing, because it gives you an anchor to then match the piano to the uttered sound coming from your voice. Okay, we have, oh man, it's 9:30. All right, guys, I'm going to take a few more questions and then we got to close out. Because as you know, tomorrow's service, I got to get some rest and so on. So we have a brother that says, what is a good way to practice rootless voicings? Will you be doing courses on it? Absolutely. So right now I'm working on the course, Altered Extensions. In that course, I'm going to teach you guys how to use altered extensions in a bunch of different songs. Because I get a lot of questions on that. I understand the concept of a sharp 9th or a sharp 11th and a flat 13th, but I have no idea how to use it in a song. So I'm going to show you guys how to think strategically about when to use those chords and how to use those chords. And I'm going to make a full 2-hour course around that. After that now, I'm going to teach you guys how to use rootless voicings and the different inversions of rootless voicings that you can use. Because the beauty of playing with a bass player is that you don't have to play the bass. And if you don't have to play the bass, it frees you up as a keyboard player to do a whole lot more. But first, you got to know how to play your chords rootless voicings. So, there is no, it's hard to explain, like say, practice that this way because there's more to it. So, I'll be doing some stuff along that line for you guys. So, a question from Isaac, he says, Warren, do you know if you can teach minor chord passing? So, this is the reason I don't even focus too much on the minor key is because if you already can play in the major key very well, you already have all the tools and knowledge to be able to play in a minor key. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So this guy said, can you teach us how to play minor passing chords? If I'm playing the key of C and I want to go to A, one of the standard passing chords is to do a 7-3-6. Right? If I'm playing the key of A minor, that's just basically doing a 2, 5, 1 in A minor. And so if you just shift your tonicization to thinking of A minor, in this example, as the root, then all the chords and passing chords that you can already use in C will still work in A minor. All you got to do is think of the root as the minor, and all the other keys work. If I'm playing in C minor, what key do I need to transfer all the knowledge from to play in C minor? The relative major for C minor, which is E major. So if you can already play comfortably in the key of E flat major, I see Meticulous showing sharps. Just quickly shift that to flats for you guys right here. So instead of sharps, we're going to show flats. There we go. So if we're playing in E flat, so if you can play the key of E flat, all the passing chords and licks and stuff that you can use in E flat, just transfer that to C minor. You know? Because that's why they call relatives. They literally share the same notes. Relative major, relative minor, relative minor, relative major. So whatever you know in a particular key, find a relative minor and the same chords should work. Yeah? With just a few exceptions based on the particular song and how the melody is written and stuff like that. So Roger say tips on learning improvisation gospel music. I need a little bit more elaboration on that, because when you say improvised gospel music, what do you mean really? Do you mean like taking a song and improvise on it, or do you mean like just try to improvise a song from scratch? I'm not sure. Because improvisation is the same regardless of genre. It's the same techniques, the same skills, the same understanding and use of harmony. Nothing changes really. And I know I haven't really done a course on improv yet, but all of that stuff's in the works, you know? So we have a question from Fanny. Hello, Fanny. Hi, Warren. I joined late because I had no idea. This is great. You can go back and watch it, Fanny. It will be posted. Ernie says, kind of dumb question. There's no dumb questions here, brother. There's no dumb questions. But with 61 keyboard, how do you know where to put middle C? Middle C is what they call C4. It's right here. It's usually the key that is dead centered in the keyboard. So even with a 61 key, middle C is still going to be more towards the center. There will be no other C that is more towards the center of the keyboard than middle C. And so that's how you know where middle C is, regardless of how many octaves. How to improve rhythm on the piano. I sort of answered that question above for a gentleman. But just to elaborate a little bit, understanding of rhythm first comes from understanding of beats. Knowing where you're 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you understand that and practice that, then start your subdivision. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Then further subdivision. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So that's how beats are divided. And that's something you first need to understand fundamentally from a theoretical perspective and start feeling that. How you start to feel it, you constantly practice to a metronome or a drum pattern. So something like this. Everything you practice, practice to a beat. And that will start to improve your internal rhythm. And from there you'll get better. For some people, rhythm comes easier than others. Some have to work on it more, but everybody can learn rhythm. But you first have to make sure that you make it a part of your daily practice with metronomes and drum patterns. Question, any good books on learning gospel piano? That's what this channel exists for. Unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to tell you of any particular books that's out there. I don't. And that's one of the reasons I decided to start this channel, because there's only a few guys on YouTube that focus exclusively on gospel piano. And to be honest, only a few of them worth following. We'll leave it at that. So if you want to learn gospel music, you're at the right place. So we have a question that says, how would you suggest I play without looking at my hands? If you're having trouble playing without looking at your hands, that means you're most likely still in the beginner's round. And that's okay. As you gain more comfort, you will realize you won't have to look at your hands. It's just like a baby. When a baby just start learning to walk, they're looking at their feet and they're like, oh, I'm going to fall. Eventually, as they get better, they don't need to look at their feet anymore. I mean, when you're walking, you don't look at your feet. You know, I see people who are typewriter experts. They can type not looking at their hands. I'm a basic typer. I still look at my hands when I type. But it's because I never really learned typing and I don't care about typing, so I don't really practice it. But as you get better at the piano, you will naturally, you won't need to look at your hands. So that's something that will solve itself naturally. The reason you have to look at your hands now is because you're still in that beginning stage. That's this way. Any drills for cycles of fourths with chords? Yes, I did a tutorial on this. And this question was asked by by Trey Forshey 14. Let me see if I can pull up the tutorial that I did this with. It's on YouTube. Let me see. I'm scrolling through my channel right now real quick. There's a tutorial I did when I show you a technique on how you can practice your cycles of fourth in all keys easily and in an interesting way using the 2-5-1 method. Where is it? Tutorial number 18, I believe. Yeah, go check out tutorial number 18. And I talk about the most effective way to practice 2-5-1 using the cycle of fourth. So you're sort of mastering two things using one method. You're learning the cycle of fourth, and you're also learning 2-5-1 techniques. So go check out that tutorial number 18. All right, guys, I'm going to take two more questions. The last two that's posted. Boom. Mark says, can you do improvisation on 4-5-3-6-2-5-1 progression? It is it is common here in the Philippines. Because we're almost out of time, Mark, I'm not going to be able to do that right now, unfortunately. And last questions by Diego. Please do a Nobody Greater by Vashon Mitchell. That's a nice one. I'll keep that in mind. What is the name of the book? The book you had shown earlier. All right, for you guys who want the book again, this one that covers all the contemporary scales and modes, it's called The Source, and it's by Steve Barta. Steve Barta, The Source, great book for you guys who want to dive into the contemporary scales and modes and to see what chords can be played over, what scale can be played over what chords. And if you want a book that covers technique, so all the fingerings for major scales, minor scales, broken chords, arpeggios, octaves, this is the book I recommend. This is what I used in college. It's the Manual of Scales, Broken Chords, and Arpeggios for piano, and it is with an introduction by Ruth Gerald, and it's basically from the Associated Board of Music, so the Associated Board of Royal School of Music. So it looks like that. You can't miss it. Once you pull it up on Amazon or Sheet Music Plus or anywhere, it's going to look like this. The cover might be different color, but they always have this sort of grand piano shot from the top. And this is a great book I recommend for those who are serious about building your technique, and especially if you read music. If you don't read music, it's going to be difficult, so don't worry getting it. But if you read music, this would be something you want to keep on your shelf. As you can see, I left college years ago, and I still got this book on my shelf. My bookshelf is right here with literally every book I've purchased and bought in music. So those are the two books I recommend for you guys. All right, unfortunately, I got to close out now before my wife starts texting me to come to bed. But I want to thank you guys for hanging out. Apologies earlier for the delay. Now that I know how all of this stuff works, because I've never done live stream like this before, so I had to finagle a whole bunch of devices. But it's a great setup. It's easy for me to do live streaming and show you guys what's happening on Midiculous. There's another camera overhead that I had set up perfectly earlier so you guys could see my hands, you could see Midiculous, and you could see me talking all at once. And then something went wrong and that camera just it wasn't displaying, so. Okay, that's that. But it was great. You guys came with some good questions tonight, and really appreciate it. You know, this is also a learning curve for me too. I learned so much from you guys. Because yeah, I spent a lot of years teaching myself how to play and learning from others how to play. And now I'm learning a lot from you guys about how to teach. The more I know about you guys, the more I know about your wants, your needs, the better I can create and craft tutorials that's going to help you. So that's why I try to do these live streams, and I do weekly tutorials, and I respond to every email and every YouTube comment, because I want to help you guys. And the more I know about you guys, the more I can help you. I want to sell tutorials and courses that's going to better your life and your playing. I want to just create some random course and go, hey, go buy it. Because if it's useless to you, then, you know, it was a waste of time for me. And so that's why I'm always sending out emails, trying to get you guys feedback. It's because the more I know about you, the better I can help you. So these were great. I'll probably at some point try to go through that live stream and just read the comments, you know, just to see, because I know there's so much questions there I didn't get to tonight. And, you know, you guys really came out in full force. So I'm probably going to need a moderator at some points to just pick out the questions for me and send them to me separately, so, you know, I don't have to sit there and be skimming through, because it's a lot. All right, so for those of you guys who are going to be playing tomorrow in service, may the Lord bless you and keep you and just shine his light upon you. Send all the music of heaven down, shower you, so it will just come out in your playing and manifest. For you guys who are just starting out, and girls, you're a beginner and it just feels like, you know, it's a steep uphill battle, and there's so much to learn, and you feel overwhelmed. Just hang in there. I guarantee you it will get easier, but you will have to put in the work. If you don't put in the work, you won't get the result, you know. But just hang in there, put one foot in front of the other every day. Try to do little on the keyboard, try to be diligent, try to be disciplined, and try to have an open mindset of learning and a mindset of gratitude. There's always someone out there wish they had what you have. And so you might say, well, I only know how to play in 3 keys. Well, there's probably a dude watching me and saying like, man, I wish I could play in if it's only 1 key. You know, so there's always something to be grateful for. You know, if you're an intermediate player, be grateful, because there are beginners wishing they were at your level. And once you start to have a mindset of gratitude and a mindset of learning, then, you know, you really will start to propel forward. All right? So until then, what do we say? Keep listening. Always be listening, yeah? Listen to music. Try to listen actively. Try to analyze what's going on. Keep singing. A brother asked, what's the importance of singing? The more you sing, the easier it will be for you to find what you're singing on the keyboard. And obviously keep practicing, because without the actual doing of the work, you will never grow. So if you're just watching YouTube videos week after week and you're not putting those things into practice, then you might as well go watch a reality TV program, because you got to be practicing always. That's where the rubber meets the road. That's where things actually happen, when you take action. All right? So see you guys on Wednesday, for it's going to be my last Black History segment / something along that line. I don't even know who I'm going to feature yet, but it will be good. All right? So you guys have a good one, and we'll talk soon.